There are so many wonderful businesses here in Oakland, and it's terrific that Mayor Quan and the city is giving us the opportunity to showcase what we're doing here for the world community. For Pandora, we love to have the opportunity to connect both with the representatives of the city and other businesses here to strengthen the ties and support our local community. We're thrilled that Pandora is part of the Oakland business community and proud to represent here at this event.
It's just an honor to be here and represent Oakland, and it's nice to connect to all the different business owners and delegates, and just be part of a larger community. I think meeting people here and being able to network with people here is a really great opportunity. I think Numi's known as an Oakland company, but for them to know that we export abroad and we import from abroad is really makes us a global brand.
We see Oakland as the tech hub of the East Bay, so I think just getting together, meeting other tech companies that are based here, other business leaders, and building those relationships and becoming aware of the issues and sort of forming an alliance is a big value.
I'm Tanya Scott. I'm one of the owners and executive directors of Ed Support Services, and we're an agency here located in Oakland that provides behavior and educational services to people with developmental disabilities. I think this is an amazing opportunity to bring different people to Oakland to see what we do and what we're all about. We're kind of having a renaissance, it feels like, and people are getting to experience it and witness it firsthand. I think that this event will really give our company exposure about our mission and our vision of what we're doing here, and also to allow us to meet other people out in the community that are doing different and exciting and innovative things.
This helps put a lot of small businesses on the map. A lot of folks that I've run into tonight are regular customers, but there's a lot of folks too who live in different neighborhoods that haven't been into our bakery. And we are a retail bakery. We don't do a lot of wholesale. You're not going to see us in markets and restaurants and things. So unless you've stepped foot inside the bakery, you won't know about our great product. And tonight's a great opportunity to introduce that. We're meeting folks who are interested in Oakland and the Bay Area. They're here in droves. I hear that they're hoping for 300 people, and we ended up with 600 folks. I've met folks from certainly a lot from Oakland and Emeryville and Pleasanton and Livermore. It's great to see those folks coming down to Oakland City Hall to meet some of the small businesses. But I've also met folks from China and Russia and New Hampshire on the East Coast. So really a good mix of folks getting a good taste of Oakland tonight.
I think that by bringing so many people together and allowing us to meet each other and meet the distinguished visitors from APEC, we'll be able to promote a wonderful image of Oakland to each other and to the world. I think this gathering is doing a lovely job of promoting and displaying all the many gems of Oakland.
I really want to thank the people here who have come, and I want to sort of introduce you to yourselves. Raise your hand if you're one of our APEC delegates. Raise your hands. Raise your hand. Oh, translation. I need a Chinese translator, obviously. Okay. Well, my eyeball is about 40% of you are delegates. Raise your hands if you're an Oakland business person. Okay, very good. And we have people from the Latino Hispanic Chamber. I'll raise your hands. From the Chinatown Chamber. The Vietnamese Chamber. They're downstairs. The Korean Chamber. I saw them, so they must be in other rooms. So we are an amazing gathering. And what I wanted to say is what I've learned as mayor, and that being the mayor of Oakland means that you have a foreign policy. I used to make this joke that I'm not Berkeley and I had no foreign policy. But when you're the mayor of the city that has the 5th largest port in the country, that's the only port in the United States that exports more than we import, you have a foreign policy. And it cuts across many lines. And many people told me that they knew that I was elected in China before people in Oakland knew, because the announcement was made in the evening and people were working. It was noontime in Hong Kong. And when I got home that night after the registrar finally declared me a victor after like waiting for, 10, 15, it seemed forever, that they were working. I got these thank you notes like when I got home around midnight. I was like, how did they know? It's not even in their Tribune yet, right? And so I wrote my cousin. She says, you've been running across the masthead in Beijing and Shanghai and Hong Kong, so we're up, we know. And you realize that we are part of a world economy, and that particularly many of you are small and medium-sized businesses in America. You provide 2/3 of the jobs, and we think internationally that's going to be true. And many of us were here because Hillary has had this vision to continue the work she started at the International Women's Conference in Beijing. And today we adopted, there's applause. And the other speakers are going to tell you more about it, but we adopted principles that basically said that every country in the Asian Pacific Rim, the APEC 21 countries, that we women leaders are going to try to make sure that, first of all, that women have access to capital. That is, banks, the World Fund was there, that they have access to capital. Secondly, that they have access to opportunities. Walmart made an exciting announcement. I'll let Lorraine and Rita Jo talk about that. But a lot of business is going to happen on a person-to-person basis. So it's my dream that today in the tables and in the different rooms, in the industry sectors, that some of you met each other and some of you will become partners over the next decades, as we in Oakland like to say, Oakland with our 150 languages, and I always say, and that comes with 150 kinds of restaurants, that we're hometown to the world. And whether you're from Australia or Russia or Japan or Australia, I have to keep on thinking that that's a Pacific Rim city, nation, that this is your second hometown. So please enjoy yourself tonight. And so I have the honor of introducing someone who had my shoes and who has been governor twice of the state of California and who is unique in politics. We call him Jerry, but Edmund G. Brown Jr., the governor of California.
Thank you, G. It's nice to be here to be closing a women's event. Takes a man to get the job done. No. Don't you always say it takes a woman to get the job done? So I get to reverse that. It takes a woman to clean. That's why my wife is not only First Lady, but Special Counsel. And a better lawyer than me. That's correct. So anyway, I think it's great to be here. I love being mayor of Oakland. It's a very exciting place because it's changing, it's dynamic, it's creative. And that's exactly what we need. And it is the 5th largest port in America, and that's also to be noted. I wanted to mention something I saw writing down from Sacramento. I was looking at the business section of the Chronicle today, and there was some guy talking about how the spirit of innovation is flagging, that there's some issues about really inventing new things, big things, important breakthroughs. And I thought, just to say a few words here, that our future together along the Pacific Rim depends so much on our ability to encourage individuals, young boys and girls to study, to really discover their own talent and creativity. And going forward, whether we're in China or Japan or the Philippines or Oakland or San Francisco or LA, it's so important that we develop the efficiency, deal with all the environmental challenges, the technological challenges, and the great human challenge of putting people to work who are right now on the sidelines. So we got lots of problems. The political parties can't get along, whether we look in Europe or Washington or Sacramento or even in Oakland. There's plenty of things to get concerned about. But what we ought to take note of, we're still growing. California's growing. America's growing. And with that growth coming from new people, immigrants of all races, of all backgrounds, of all languages, we really do have a very yeasty mix here. And that really gives me a great deal of hope, because we are doing things that the mid part of the country, they're still coming to California. You know, they always say we got some problems of taxes and what do we got? Regulations and a little bit of crime here and there. But we're right next. What of you? You know, what of you from Oakland? You know, we get to look over there at San Francisco and the Pacific. People want to be here because we're right on the rim of the growing part of the world. So what more can I say? Glad you're here. I'm still an Oakland resident. I can still run for mayor of Oakland, I want you to know. I have to say something about the term limits in Oakland. They're different than the term limits for governor. The term limits for governor is after you serve 8 years, you can't do it again. Now, I can do it because I served before they even passed the law. But in Oakland, you can serve another 8 years as long as you stay out for 4 years. So after you're finished, your 2 terms, you can go run for governor, and I can come and run for mayor, and we'll keep the power of Oakland predominant, because this city is on the ascendancy. It's growing. Even people from San Francisco. I'm an immigrant from San Francisco. People come here because the weather's better. Just go out, go up on the building here and look over there. It's foggy. It's foggy. Just remember that. So we actually took some ads out a few years ago, and we showed people in fur coats, or warm coats. I don't think they were fur coats, but warm coats, because it was so foggy, and that's why they had to come over here. Anyway, thanks a lot. Great conference. I was there earlier. Today was good, and it's great that we're all getting together. And we're talking about good stuff, women as well as men, because we're part of the women's movement too, the enlightened part of the women's movement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you. So what we're going to do is we have a few extra guests. We have some wonderful congresswomen here, so I'm going to let them go at the end. But we're going to go, the whole conference was public, private sector. And so I'm going to next introduce a rising star of one of Oakland's rising companies. Now, how many of you have iPhones? How many of you have Pandora on it? I do. Okay, Pandora is headquartered here in Oakland, and we're going to have one of their rising stars speak to us, because one of my challenges was to meet all the women who are CFOs and CEOs of Oakland cities, and so we tried to do a little cross mix of it, and there were some other ones here. Yvette Radford's here from Kaiser. Are you here? Where are you? And we also had the Vice President of Clorox here earlier. Yes, hello. So these are major Fortune 500 companies. They're here. And we have quite a few presidents of universities and colleges. So where are my college presidents? Stand up, please. Any college? Our new president? Okay. And I think we had the president of Mills College and the president of Emeritus here. So without further ado, let me please introduce Jessica Steele, the Executive Vice President of Business and Corporate Development of Pandora.
Thank you so much, Mayor Quan. Unlike our esteemed governor, I'm not planning to run for mayor after I finish with Pandora. So. But I am really honored to be here representing Pandora and Oakland at this event. Oakland has actually been home to Pandora since we were just a little startup. I think I was employee number 14 just over 7 years ago. And Oakland has supported us throughout all the stages of our growth. We're now a publicly listed company on the New York Stock Exchange with over 400 employees. Thank you. Oakland has been a terrific partner to Pandora throughout, including a very tough chapter in our history just a few years ago when we were fighting for the very existence of our nascent internet radio industry in the halls of Congress in Washington, D.C. But perhaps most importantly, Pandora's employees love coming to work in Oakland. In fact, I'd venture to say that if we ever contemplated moving headquarters out of Oakland, our employees would revolt. Pandora and our neighborhood of Oakland have sort of grown up together, and we feel a strong loyalty to being part of this great city. This is perhaps in no small part because Pandora is a music company, and Oakland has a long and rich music tradition. So for those of you today visiting from overseas, you might not know what Pandora is. Simply put, Pandora is personalized radio delivered over the internet. The service dynamically creates a radio station that caters to each listener's taste individually. And as the listener gives feedback, it customizes the playlist to play just the kind of music that the listener wants. And people seem to like it. We've recently passed 100 million registered listeners in the United States. And just last quarter, we streamed 1.8 billion hours of radio. Unfortunately, Pandora is only available in the US today due to music licensing constraints. But we are very keen to bring Pandora to a global audience. The appeal of personalized radio is universal. And for me, this is also a rather personal quest, because I have very fond memories of the year I spent abroad, living in Japan, learning to speak the language as a student and touring around Asia. And so I am personally looking forward to those Japanese karaoke songs making their way into Pandora. And if you will all indulge me for just a moment, I'll say a word of greeting with my rusty Japanese. Nihon kara no okyakusama, yokoso Oakland e. Nankai mo zehi modotte kite kudasai. So in keeping with the theme of this week's events, Pandora also has a vibrant community of women professionals and leaders. In fact, Pandora's Women in Business group has 80 members. And we host a series of speaking events for women leaders. We do mentoring and coaching to help develop Pandora's future women leaders. And we also do community outreach to help invest in the women and girls in Oakland to help them reach their full potential. We're really proud to be conducting this activity and Pandora's business here in Oakland. And I'm really honored to have the opportunity to publicly thank Mayor Quan and the City of Oakland for all their support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joe, will you stand up? Joe Kennedy is the CEO. Please stand. Okay, thank you. So the next person I'm introducing is probably the woman who is responsible for us all being here to get one of the people who's still around, at least still, who played a major role in this and who was working on the planning. And I was very pleased to be on the planning group with the Bay Council, who did a great job. Lorraine Harrington is the Special Representative for Commercial and Business Affairs of the U.S. State Department.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Quan, and I have to say she has been the most committed supporter of our efforts. At every event, she has been there. She went to everything, and so I have to say she's absolutely committed from, passionately about women's leadership. So I thank you for all that. So looking out at this audience, we have people from all over the Asia-Pacific Rim, not only visiting, but also in the city. And that's what's so exciting about the Bay Area and about Oakland. And we were lucky enough to have this wonderful event at City Hall a couple of days ago, which the Bay Area Council was very involved in, where we had people doing dances and performances from the 21 economies, and they were all from inside of the city of San Francisco, and it just made me realize what a cosmopolitan world we all live in, and we're all part of all that, so that's very exciting. I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about this event across the Bay that's gotten so much attention and what it's all about, because it's really historic. In fact, it's a meeting of ministers from all over 21 economies that rim the Pacific, and it is actually the largest meeting of foreign officials in California since 1945, when we signed the UN Declaration. So it is really historic. And basically, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperative is a cooperative for the growth of the Asia-Pacific region, and those 21 economies represent 57% of the gross national product of the world. So it's a very, very significant set of economies, and we're really about trying to impact growth. There's 2 weeks of conferences, and there's conferences on energy, on transportation, on healthcare, but the one that I've been most involved in is the one on women and the economy. And Secretary Clinton, as some of you know, women's leadership and women's economic empowerment is a signature issue of us, so we were lucky enough to have her come out, give the keynote address, and not only that, she led the high-level policy dialogue where she asked the top-level ministers from around all of the economies to come and talk about putting the San Francisco Declaration that the mayor talked about, that laid basically a whole document that said, how do we empower women in the economy? And a couple of key tenets of that. First of all, empowering women is the right thing to do, but it's also the right economic thing to do, because in economies where women participate more in the economy, they are more healthy. When women are well-educated and participate in the workplace, the GDP is higher. In fact, statistically, in the United States itself, if we had equal participation by women in the workplace, we would have 9% higher GDP. In Japan, it would be 16%. So the reason why we're so excited and interested in empowering women is because we need to get growth. And I think in the United States in particular, especially given the job situation and our need to be competitive, we need to get more women involved in science and technology. We need to use the full capabilities of all our women to be effective. So we're honored to have the support of the mayor and the city of Oakland. And what I've been telling everyone about the San Francisco Declaration, it is not just for the 21 economies. The reason why we have a public and private partnership, and half the people at the conference were private sector people, is because we want everyone to take that declaration and implement in their environment. That means for the ministers in each one of these economies, that means the city of Oakland, that means Pandora, that's already implementing a lot of the tenets, which is empowering women within Pandora. It means we had Michelle Bachelet, who was the president of Chile, and she's now the head of UN Women. She was there, and she's going to take that declaration and implement it at the UN. We had people from the OECD, which is made up of the 20 most developed economies in the world. They're looking at that. So we believe that this is a platform of the future, and we believe this was really an historic event right here in San Francisco and the Bay Area. So thank you all for being here, and we look forward to working with you to empowering women.
Thank you. So I have to tell you that a couple of us Bay Area women, after Hillary was finished this morning, were thinking, okay, so we're going to have our lunch roundtable, and we're going to see how we can implement this in Oakland and how we can do it on the local level. So those of you who live in Oakland expect to be invited to lunch. So our next speaker is another young vice president. This is Martha Belcher, the vice president of Sungevity. And Sungevity is one of the fastest growing solar companies. In fact, I'm just waiting to replace my roof, and I'm gonna get them to come and do my roof. They have expanded in Jack London. I think we just got their permits through, and they tell me they'll be at 1,000 in a year or so employees. So one of our fastest growing companies in Oakland. And I'd like to think that Kaiser, Clorox, Sungevity, Pandora are part of the reason that we were just elected or selected by Newsweek as the second most can-do city in the country. So without further ado, Martha.
Hi, how are you? Martha Belcher with Sungevity, and we are located down in Jack London Square. We moved there about 1.5 years ago with about 50 employees, and now we actually have a campus at Jack London. We're in 3 buildings and have over 300 employees, growing very, very quickly. We are a solar company, and I thought I'd take an opportunity to shatter 2 myths, current myths about solar. The first one, contrary to what the media is saying, solar is booming. We are growing. We are employing, And the piece of it that Sungevity is involved with is we work directly with homeowners across the country. We're in 8 states, 3 states on the west and 5 states in the northeast, offering solar to homeowners to basically reduce the cost of their electricity. And we offer a zero-down lease. So there is no money up front, and our customers save from their first month on their electricity bills. So we're really excited about our offering, and I think this offering has allowed us to grow as quickly as we have. We employ 120 subcontracted companies across the country, and those are the people who are in those areas creating green jobs and putting the solar on roofs of our customers. And that leads me to the second myth, which is that green jobs is not working. Somebody out there is saying green jobs isn't working. We had a photograph in last weekend's article in the San Francisco Chronicle about the demise of Solyndra and how the US solar industry was falling. Well, there was a photograph of 4 of our installers in that article. 2 of those people on the roof now have their own companies and are installing solar for us. So that's just an example of how we are growing. It's not always about panels. We get our panels from many different sources. It's about creating green jobs and getting people out there to install solar and creating savings for companies across the company. And just finally, we're working with Laney College to help bring up people through the trades and help train them so they can join the industry. 2 of my employees are teachers at Laney College, and they are working with people in Oakland and across the East Bay to learn about solar and be able to join us. And we're hoping that many of those people that join us are women. And that's just the third. If I can throw a third in, is that solar is not just for men and green jobs is not just for men. We're offering opportunities to women across the country to get involved in this exciting global revolution for green energy. Thank you.
So the last of the first 4 panel that we were planned on is somebody who actually, if Lorraine was part of the policy, the person who actually sort of was the inspiration, particularly for me, for pulling you together, for pulling the local small business people in my city together with the people from the conference, is Rita Jo Lewis. Many of you have worked maybe on the Clinton campaign, knew her. She has been responsible for serving the global needs of U.S. intergovernmental officials. Particularly, she's been working with local government officials like me. And I got to meet her at my first committee. We passed a resolution to support her program. And as a rookie mayor, I did not expect to lead a committee at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. But because of the China phenomenon, I'm leading the International Relations Committee. And that won't just be in Asia, but looking at how the world economy and how Oakland particularly as a port city and how the American economy in general will benefit. And people are giving Brock a hard time, but the reality is if he reaches his goal, if she does her job right and we double exports, in Oakland alone I'll have 5,000 new jobs. And so this is a woman who really put the heart into it, and I hope you got those ribs. We ordered ribs particularly for you. I was saying that we have multi-ethnic food in Oakland, so we have some Everett and Jones ribs down there. So, it's been a delight working with her, and she's been a great partner and a great friend to the city. Rita Jo Lewis.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Madam Mayor. We are so delighted, Madam Mayor, that when you were selected by your friend, Mayor Villaraigosa, who is now the head of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, one of the first calls we made after the mayor came in to see Secretary Clinton, was to the mayor because he told us that she was going to be the lead for him on the International Committee. So it's not just because of your ethnicity. It is because of the hard work, it is because of Oakland, and it is because of what you heard your governor say, that Oakland is a city that we are so proud to be able to support from our intergovernmental affairs work at the State Department. You have advocates like Congresswoman Lee here. She is always on her job, being a friend. to this administration, to this secretary, and to the department. So she too is one of your advocates. And so we're very delighted that the governor could be here with the Congresswoman, with Mayor Quan, and also with her friend, Mayor Lee. I will tell you that the two of them came in to see me, and we put together a very dynamic team internally in the State Department to brief them about the work that the State Department is doing and where we would like to see the support that we would like to give to our cities and states around the U.S. So when I walked in and I saw the Newsweek ad and it said it's a can-do city, you have a can-do mayor. And so we were really delighted to be able to go to her first committee meeting where she passed the resolution to support the work that Secretary Clinton has asked me to do. And that is to be the advocate internally inside the State Department and around the world with state and local officials and their subnational counterparts. So I want to first ask us to give a round of applause to our mayor here in Oakland. And so, Madam Mayor, when you're able to bring out the governor, I will tell you there is not a country that I have visited in my 20 months at the State Department. There's not a continent that I have not been on in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where everyone discusses that they want to work with the state of California. They want to work with Los Angeles, the Bay Area, of San Francisco. They want to work with the big-time port here in Oakland. They name time and time again cities in the state of California. They don't care what they read. At the end of the day, California still has some of the most dynamic local leaders, and we're happy to support Mayor Quan and her team, Mayor Quan and her friends, Mayor Quan and her colleagues throughout the state of California. I will tell you, this is a wonderful venue, Mayor Quan, to be able to close a successful set of meetings and to say goodbye to both old friends and all of the new friends. So many of us have had the opportunity to catch up, to reconnect, and this has been an occasion that has been led by our secretary on the discussions and activities. So when you bring these kinds of leaders to the closing reception for the APEC Women in the Economy Summit, we were very delighted to receive Mayor from Japan and a delegation here from China, and I know that there were others here that had to leave. So I am so delighted to be here also with my co-lead of this delegation, Deborah McCarthy, Deborah, please raise your hand. Deborah McCarthy is our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary. So we're really delighted to be out here with Deborah and our Undersecretary and be out here with our Special Rep Harrington here and all of the people that have put this on. But I will tell you, this work could not be done at all without people like you sitting in this room. People like you who have been all over the state of California. The delegates who are also here. But more important, Mayor Quan, you have, and the entire state, has produced some of the most gracious hospitality. Your team has received each and every one of us very, very well. And so we're very delighted to be able to be here. We want to congratulate you. We want to congratulate our delegates, and we want to congratulate the meetings that are going forth. I will tell you, I just returned from New Zealand and South Africa and India. And each time that I have met with the mayor, especially when I'm on the Asia continent, so I'll give you that, especially on the Asia continent, it doesn't really matter. They talk about your port. They talk about women as leaders. They talk about the fact that in the state of California, they want to work with these leaders. And so as we're out there, Mayor Quan, we will continue to take our lead from your governor, from your congresswoman, and your fellow mayors as we support the work that all of you have done. And we want to be here tonight on behalf of the State Department to congratulate Oakland on receiving us so graciously, and we are honored to be in the house that Madam Mayor is leading right now. Thank you very much.
So I wanted everyone to come up for a picture. I don't know how you can get this many powerful women in one place, so we got to take a quick picture. And then I'm just going to have Judy and Barbara each say a quick thing. I can't let these powerful women go without. So for you, those of you guys, this is the photo op, and then I'm going to ask Barbara and Judy to say a few words. And then on to dessert and more music and dancing. Please, so it's always an honor to introduce my sister here, Barbara Lee. This is a woman who, when we were campaigning, I had to say I was a Hillary delegate, and I love Hillary, but she was for Brock, and we can have our differences, but come together, and, you know, she's been right so many times that I'm almost afraid to ever cross her. She was right on the Iraq War. She's been right on so many things that she's led, and you know, we're having this meeting a couple weeks now where we're trying to find, everybody has to come with the first. Unfortunately, our generation, so many women did the first this, first that. This one has such a long list. My friend and our Congresswoman, Barbara Lee.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for all of your support for Mayor Quan, and let me thank all of you for your remarks and the work that you're doing and really helping us circle the wagon on what we need to do here in Oakland, because this is a world-class city. Mayor Quan, let me just say to you first of all, how proud I am of what you're doing and what you have done. And just let me give you an example of what's taking place in Oakland this week. Like Rita said, everybody wants to come to Oakland. I have this week, I'm a member of the UN Commission on HIV and the Law. I'm the only American on that commission. Well, they're here in Oakland meeting this weekend. Secondly, I'm former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. I chair now, very proud chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus's Health Task Force. What do we have going on in Oakland? Because Mayor Quan is our mayor, we have 6 members of Congress here in Oakland and 300 to 400 people working on our healthcare disparity legislation at the same time that the UN meeting is taking place here in Oakland. Next, we have a 40-person delegation from Ghana here in Oakland working on a business conference. There's several other meetings taking place here in Oakland. And I think that's a real testament, though, to Mayor Quan's leadership and why people want to come to Oakland. As a former business owner myself for 11 years, I know the importance of small businesses in creating jobs, but also I know, and I remember very well, the difficulties I had breaking into the international markets and how hard it was for a woman to become global in my business operations. And so thanks to all of you, thanks to APEC now, and thanks to what Mayor Quan is doing, all of you have a real shot now at becoming global in your business operations, because we know that not only can money be made in the international business arena, but also many, many jobs can be created. And so I just want to salute you tonight, Mayor Quan. Thank all of you for your support for our mayor, and bring forward now 2 of my colleagues who are amazing women in Congress who, once again, they've come to Oakland. Congresswoman Dr. Judy Chu from Los Angeles, who chairs the Asian Pacific American Caucus in Congress. She's hit the ground running in Congress. I always say this, she comes from the California legislature, but she's a psychologist by profession, and she has taken the Asian Pacific American Caucus to new heights already within less than a year. And so, Congresswoman Judy Chu, why don't you come forward now and say a few words, and just thank you again for coming to Oakland. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to really showcase your work and our disparities bill and our health care efforts. And I know that Mayor Quan really wanted to see you, too. And our weekends are so busy that now at least we have a chance to see each other, you and Jean. So thank you again.
Well, thank you, Mayor Quan, for letting me into your city. I have been in Oakland now for 2 hours, and I can't believe the number of things that are going on here. So many international events, and let me first commend all of you for being at this APEC reception. It's so important to have these kinds of global relations and these kind of dialogues. And I am so proud of Mayor Jean Quan because she is overseeing this kind of dialogue. We've been friends for 30 years, and to see her be the first Asian American to be mayor of this incredible city is it just makes me very, very proud. And yes, I am the chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific Caucus, and we do have as our goal to have better U.S.-Asia relations. In fact, we just came back from taking our first ever U.S.-China relations delegation. We were in China, and we made it our goal to increase the number of exports that are in China. We found to our amazement that just in one area, in wine, did you know that 50% of the wine that they drink in China comes from France and only 5% from America? Well, that set us on a mission to talk about it, and everywhere we went, we talked about American wine, and in particular California wine, and if you can believe, yes, if you can believe it, some of them said, "You mean you make wine in America?" Well, I said, not only that, we've actually won contests against the French. So they have changed their minds, so we hope that we can improve the exports of wine for one thing, but improve exports of all American goods. And we hope that all these goods can go through the Port of Oakland. So, so now let me introduce, yes, it was a pleasant surprise to see that we have a woman who has represented the state of Hawaii so very, very well. And she is somebody who has a long, incredible history in Hawaii. She also is somebody that we hope will be the next senator of Hawaii. Yes. And she's also a member of APEC, so I love that, our Congressional Asian Pacific Caucus, a very, very outstanding advocate for education. That is Congressmember Mazie Hirano.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So this is where the elite are meeting, right? In Oakland. Thank you so much, Judy and Barbara. It was really wonderful to see you folks, and you look totally surprised to see me here. I'm not in Hawaii. I'm here with the rest of you. I'm very pleased to be here because I think that when we focus on what women can do as part of every country's economy, there's a lot, right? You've been having 2 days of meetings. I know some of the presenters and some of the people who spoke at your panels, not to mention Hillary Clinton, who I think certainly puts it out there how important it is to have women be totally involved and engaged in the life of every country, the economic life of every country. And so San Francisco, with its diversity, is a great place for the Women and the Economy Summit. You have wonderful, wonderful women leaders all here. And in my milieu of politics, we have Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco, who I think is one of the, in my view, she is the greatest speaker that we've ever had, in my view. And I think it's shared. And then, of course, you have two wonderful U.S. senators, Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein, who I hope to be working with soon. But at the same time, we know that there's a lot more progress and a lot more mountains to climb as we move toward enabling women to have access to financing, to really harness their entrepreneurial spirit all over the world. So I am delighted to see you here. And by the way, I know you know that Hawaii is the next venue for APEC. I hope that many of you will come to Hawaii, to Honolulu in particular, and all the neighbor islands. We are going to put our best foot forward and welcome all of you with our aloha spirit. And we're all going to be working together to continue to push for women's success in our economic, social, and political life, because those glass ceilings need to be cracked, and you all are holding the hammer to do that. Mahalo nui loa. Aloha.